Hello and welcome to the Cardfellas Podcast Show. I'm Chris, he's Matt, and tonight we're going to be talking some football cards. How are we doing this week?
We're doing great. How about yourself?
Every day I wake up and can't believe this is how my life turned out.
You know what? Back when this set that we're going to talk about today, things almost didn't turn out the way we all had anticipated with Y2K.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah.
That was a thing back when this set was being produced. So that's going to be a fun topic to dive into. We thought the world was coming to an end back in 2000 for the youngsters. That was a monumental turn of events when the calendar flipped from 1999 to 2000. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of 2000 football. It was a big year for football. The only thing was it took many, many years after the year 2000 for it to become a big year for football, especially for cards, as you're going to find out as we start to dive into the 2000 Bowman football set. It is a interesting set nonetheless when you look at it from a historical perspective. Hindsight being 2020, as they say, you probably should have purchased these cards when they came out, but realistically, you probably didn't. And I'm pretty sure when Topps was printing this 240 card set, they probably weren't like, boy, we sure got a winner on our hands that, you know, in 22 years, two guys are going to be in their garage talking about how great this set was, because it really wasn't. This was not a good set at all. When you look at the checklist, it's really not. But I'm sure Topps had no idea, as did any of us at that time, that card number 236 would become one of the most sought-after cards in the hobby. That, of course, is one Tom Brady rookie card Bowman set.
Yeah. Just to clarify, you're in your garage, I'm in my basement.
Okay. Both, and we do have to clarify, both are homes that we own. This is not my mom's garage. This is not your mom's basement. We are actual adults who have houses. Not that we're saying anything against people who live in their parents' houses. That's fine. But we've been accused of living in our parents' house still because we're like young toddlers talking about baseball cards. So these are homes we own.
It's my wife's house, but she does let me have the basement, so here I am.
All right, that sounds good. I'd say the same thing just to get on the good side of my wife, but she doesn't listen to our podcast, so she wouldn't hear it anyway. So, right. But let's talk about cards. Let's not talk about our houses, and let's get back to this Bowman set. And as I mentioned, the Tom Brady card out of this set is what makes this set the reason really to talk about it, and quite frankly, the only reason to talk about it. But I think we're going to dive into a little bit of what the hobby looked like in 2000 and you know, what Brady meant to it and what he means to it now.
Yeah, I think a couple things that you said there. One is you don't think that Topps thought they had a winner, and my guess is they didn't. And I think people that are thinking about collecting this next draft class, this 2022 class, maybe can take a lesson here, because honestly, you know, there's, like you said, there's really not a lot of big stars that came out of this draft, other than really one. You know, you can say Brian Urlacher, probably another big star. But that's really about it. A lot of guys who had good careers, but no big time stars other than those two guys. So it's something that I think that people, as they go into this next draft, where there's nobody that you look at and go, this guy's the next Tom Brady. But you know, again, Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick. Tom Brady, I believe this in the year 2000, threw 3 passes in the regular season. He started out the season as the 4th-string quarterback behind John Freese and Michael Bishop. So he was not someone that everybody was really excited about, which is actually kind of interesting to me, because the way this set's laid out, card 1 through 140 were the veterans. And then there was actually 25 cards that were NFL Europe cards, or European League, whatever they called it. And then there were 75 rookies. So for Brady to be chosen in that 75 rookies, and he was 236, so there's only 4 other cards after.
Right.
Who knows if that was really the order of how they chose it? I know my guy Delta O'Neal was I think 237. So
the names. Go look at the checklist. It's fascinating. It really is.
So there's not a ton of guys out there, and we'll get into the PSA stuff later. I think the pop report is actually really telling on this set as well. Let's pull up and take a look at some stuff here for the YouTube folks. There's the box, 2000 Bowman box. So I couldn't find a retail box, but I saw somewhere on Beckett retail packs were $3 a pack. Hobby was $6 a pack. And then they had something called Home Team Advantage as well. And those were more like a jumbo pack. So you got 12 packs of 21 in there. Another thing to think about, though, if you're out there and you're thinking about buying a box right now to go after Brady, which I think would be pretty foolish, there's only 240 cards in the box and 240 cards in the set. So perfect collation, you'll get one, but that means there's a good chance that you won't get any because, if you don't get that perfect collation, you may miss out. You could also get two, but I would say that's pretty it's a lotto ticket, not
right?
likely.
Yeah. So. And I love how you look at that. And you often hit me up with hey, this set has fewer cards than, that are in the box, and you're going to get multiples. And, we've done a box break on this YouTube channel of 1990 Fleer basketball. It's a great example of that. So that's a great call out. If you're going to go Brady hunting and opening this, I mean, it'd be a great rip. It'd be fun, but I don't think it's anything worth the price you're going to pay for it. Do you have a price on a box? Have you seen one? So I saw them all over the board, but what did you see?
The most recent sale on eBay was $3,500. Back in February, they were selling for about $4,000. Yeah, and when you look at the Brady's and what they're really selling for, a PSA 9 is going for $2,400. So you could buy one of those and still have $1,000 to spend on Cheetos, or you could spend $3,500 and get the box. But I know everybody's chasing that PSA 10, but that's a tough deal with this card. It's not impossible, but it's pretty tough to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the things when you look at this card and you look at this set and when we look at the hobby, there's always flagship rookie cards that people are after, and it's kind of odd sometimes which cards become the flagship and which sets become the flagship. But when we look at what it was like in the year 2000, there were a ton of products on store shelves. Actually, what I counted, and this might be off by a couple here, but there were like 77 different football sets produced that year. And many of those sets did have Brady rookie cards. There were 45 different Brady cards, but 26 of those cards were numbered. So this is kind of that new era of cards where most of the cards were numbered. And so the Bowman card was not numbered. And then the obviously the other ones were extremely more rare. And then there's the one auto, of course, that everybody knows, the playoff contenders rookie ticket. But of the 18 that weren't numbered, the Bowman card became kind of the flagship. And to this day, it's the most graded rookie card of Brady's. But what makes this unique, from sets we've talked about in past episodes, and we've touched on it here, is there was zero buzz from this set, from this year. And we touched on some of the people in it. And, over time, that proved to be the case. You mentioned Urlacher, the only other Hall of Famer in this set. And he was a rookie, and he, had a good following in Chicago, but he's a defender, and not many people are clamoring for that. So there was zero buzz at the time. And then when you talk about, when you look at the collectors, what do you try and get in the NFL? You try and get quarterbacks, because those are the guys who, are usually the money guys. And the only quarterback drafted in the first two rounds, I think it was the first two rounds, was Chad Pennington at 18. And you have to remember that era of football was so much more different because you had those locked in rookie contracts. So if you paid a quarterback first round money, you were pretty much tied to that guy for like 3, 4, 5 years. And so, you know, you didn't see the run on quarterbacks like you do now. And the other quarterbacks drafted in this draft were atrocious. I mean, you had, you know, T. Martin, you had Giovanni Carmazzi, you had, you know, name some other guys, Spurgeon Wynn. So, like, it was definitely not a class. Like when you look at 84, you're like, whoa, that's the iconic quarterback class. This was the polar opposite. So when you look at the hobby and look at all the product, you have to wonder, Chris, like, I know we call the 80s the junk era. Is this like, this was like the dead era? Like, nobody was collecting these cards, I don't think. And you and I have talked about this. What happened and what has happened to all of the Brady rookie cards? Because you and I bought a lot of product in this year. We didn't have a lot of Brady cards. And so what did we do with them? I don't think we're alone.
Right.
And when you look at the population reports of all of his rookie cards, there's only one of his rookie cards that has over 5,000 of them graded. And there's only two that have over 4,000. So it's a very, very scarce time for the collection and finding those cards. And my guess is, and I would love for your speculation, what happened to those cards?
I think there's a few different things going on. I think, you know, when you and I were really into the heyday of our collecting was the, you know, that was the junk era. And, you know, I think both of us kind of took a hiatus, you know, in those mid 90s when we were kind of going through our late teens and early 20s. And obviously not everybody in the world was going through that age, but I do think that people after the junk era kind of came to a close, people kind of shut off for a while. And they're like, listen, you know, we bought all these cards and they're worthless now. Nobody wants them. I'm done with this hobby. I'm going to go do something else. And I just don't think there was the cards printed like there was, you know, 7-8 years earlier. And of course, you know, 17, 18 years later. And I think if you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of guys kind of start talking math about print runs today. And they'll show you the print runs from 5 or 6 years ago, you know, 2016, 2017. It wasn't much. And like you talk about, you know, like a Mike Trout rookie card, those are pretty attainable if you can go out and even buy retail wax. And just the base card has a lot of value to it just because at that time the print runs weren't what they were. Right. I mean, I remember when we first stepped back into this hobby, you know, right around that pandemic time, you could still go. I remember going to Walmart and seeing cards with clearance stickers on them.
Yes.
And you know, that was something that I think happened quite a bit during those 2000s that obviously now no one would even dream of that. And, right. You know, when we were collecting in the late 90s and late 80s, you know, that stuff too, everything you put out sold. But it is interesting though, like you said, you know, there was a lot of things going on and kind of the licensing thing that we're hearing about now with Fanatics. There's a lot of licenses changing hands. And the more that I've been reading over the last few months, you hear about, and I didn't realize it, a lot of these work stoppages in professional sports were due to licensing, sports licensing, which is not something that I knew, you know, when that was going on. And now I'm hearing about it. So, you know, Fleer put out tons of product for this year.
Yes.
And if you go to like 2001, there's tons of, and, you know, Topps had several sets as well. So, and I think they made smaller sets. So as you know, like there's a lot of sets that didn't have Tom Brady's in them and didn't have some of these kind of, you know, later round picks in them because they just didn't, you know, they made so many sets. They'd say, well, we'll take some guys in this set and some guys in that set. So that's why you have, I mean, I look at my collection. I've actually been going through a lot of my stuff lately. And, you know, I bought a bunch of Upper Deck MVP cards in 2000. I've got a stack of Chad Pennington rookies, but
Brady wasn't in that set. Yeah.
Yep. So.
And we invested in the wrong cards. That's for sure. But those were the cheap ones, right? You were talking about the cost of a Bowman pack. What was it? $3 for retail, $6 for a hobby.
$6 for hobby, right?
Back in 2000, that was pretty steep.
Yeah,
that was pretty steep. So I think that was one of the things that, you know, as you and I got back into the hobby for the blip that about 98, 99, 2000, we kind of got back into it. I think Randy Moss for me got me back into collecting. And I think one of the things that happened during that era as well, they went to numbered cards. So the junk era is the anti-junk era, because they were looking at that saying, we're not going to produce as many. We're going to number them. We're also going to take a piece of the guy's jersey and we're going to put it on the card. We're going to have them sign the card. So it was just a different time. And the other thing that I think about when I look at the Tom Brady rookie cards, they don't have the iconic names of the brands that are connected. You have like Fleer, like we mentioned. You have Leaf, Rookie and Stars, like that type of thing. Pacific, like what is Pacific? It's not like it's, I grew up collecting Pacific my whole life. It's like, what is that? And they're cut like die cuts that are a little bit odd. And so I look at this. There's Score. There's Skybox and Skybox like Dominion and weird things like that. Of course, then there was Upper Deck. I was surprised to look at the Pop Report. Not many people got that Upper Deck card graded. I would have considered that Upper Deck card closer to the Bowman card as being that flagship. It's really not. That Skybox Dominion card, where he's in his Michigan jersey, is actually the second most. And so I think that was interesting to me, that Upper Deck didn't get closer to that Bowman, just considering I think the Upper Deck packs were cheaper and I think more affordable. I think more people bought them, but clearly they weren't keeping the Brady cards. And again, that gets back to where we're at here is those low pops. But for me, I keep thinking, how did this Bowman card become the flagship? And I really couldn't find, there wasn't a whole lot of research done on this card, but maybe you have some more theories. And part of it for me too is, again, Bowman is a known name. And so I think, if you're in the hobby, you're a hobbyist, you're a collector, you're going to gravitate towards those a little bit more than, these newer up and comers or less established names. And the other one is, this is Tom Brady action in his Patriots uniform. The other ones are, the Upper Deck one is him running at practice. They're the other ones that have him in his Michigan outfit, his Michigan uniform. And so I think that's kind of how this Bowman card became kind of his flagship.
Yeah, I think my other theory on this, and it may have happened to me, because I actually do have a fair amount of Bowman cards, and I did have 2 Tom Brady rookie cards that I did have graded. They both got 9s, which was pretty cool. I mean, you saw a picture of one there when I was showing it. But, I sold a ton of cards, and it was right around that time. And I think I just sold boxes of commons to people at garage sales in 2000. And, I think that Brady card would have been one of those guys, and we look at it today, you open a pack of cards and you get these prospects in it, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are named prospects and the other ones are kind of no-name guys, and you just throw them in a box. Or even collectors today, I think, are not even interested in that stuff. I know some guys will hang on to the prospect cards, but a lot of guys just toss them. If it's not the guy they're looking for, or the first round guy, or the name guy, they just toss them. So I think a lot of them ended up in common boxes, or maybe, just given away to people. And, by the time, because again, Brady wasn't highly touted and he didn't really even play his first year. What happened is in the second year, second season, Drew Bledsoe again was a starter for the Patriots. They lost their first game. In the second game, they played the Jets. I think it was Mo Lewis fell on Bledsoe, and he had some internal bleeding. Brady came in, played a little bit, and then they put Bledsoe back in for a series, and then Brady came back in. They ended up losing that game. They started the season 0-2, but then Brady won 11 of the 14 games he played in. They ended up going to the Super Bowl. But, that was that first year, and I didn't realize it, but that first year that Brady was a starter, that was the Tuck Rule game. I thought it happened like the second or third time I went to the Super Bowl. It was actually the first Super Bowl season for that squad. That was the Tuck Rule game when they beat the Raiders on a rule that I still don't understand. I don't either. I still think Brady got a free Super Bowl out of that deal, which, there's a lot of people that may say he got a lot of free Super Bowls, but Anyway, they ended up winning. They ended up going and playing the Rams that year, which was the greatest show on turf. They were 14-point underdogs, and the Patriots ended up winning the game, and the rest is history. So,
yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think a lot of people gave these cards away or just tossed them. Right. I think that's one of the things that just happened back then. People were so used to cards just coming and going from the junk era and just not, like you said, not gaining any steam, any value. There wasn't much. And, I'm not exactly sure when PSA started grading cards. I don't think it was 2000. Maybe it was. But, how far that went back. Like, it was just a different time for the hobby. And, people were not paying as much attention. There wasn't social media. So, there wasn't a lot of hype. There wasn't a lot of buzz. Like, who's this Tom Brady guy? And, it's just, you wonder what happened. And you and I have talked about this. Where are all these cards of his that were produced? And if you have them, I mean, they are true, short print, low pop, frisky low pops. And when we look at the, you said the pop report, and we'll get to that in just a second, but this Bowman card is the most graded Tom Brady rookie card. And the second most is the Skybox. Actually, it's the Skybox Impact card. And that card has been graded over 4,000 times. That's the one of him in the Michigan jersey passing. And then the third most is the Dominion card. And that's the one that he shares with Giovanni Carmazzi, the quarterback who was drafted by the 49ers. And that one's been graded over 3,000 times. The other ones, none of them have been graded over 2,000 times. So when you look at Chrome,
the Bowman Chrome is like 3,900. Yeah. And that was another thing that you asked, why has this card become kind of the flagship?
Yes.
And I think when we talk about like the Dominion and those brands all died.
Yes.
So people, I think, thought, when, like the 2012 type sets, that Topps was kind of the retail type brand, and Bowman was always thought of as kind of the premium brand. Bowman Chrome was the ultra premium. So I think that people just kind of took those ideas and put it on this card. So that's my theory as far as why is this kind of thought of as the flagship, because I think in 2000, I don't think it really probably was thought of that way, but it certainly is now.
Yes, and I did leave off Bowman Chrome because, like you mentioned, it is the ultra premium, and that is a, from a base card perspective, that is the holy grail for Tom Brady. And if you can find that card, get it graded well, you're doing pretty well for yourself. But looking at the pop report, yes, sir, you have one?
I have a question. No,
okay.
But I got a statement, though.
Okay.
There's actually more Bowman Chrome PSA 10s than Bowman PSA 10s. It's almost 3 times as many.
Yes.
So that's we'll get to that. Go ahead. You go.
No, but that's
PSA.
an interesting, but I would assume that has to do with card stock. I've never held either of the cards in my hand personally, so I couldn't attest to that. If you have, without it being graded, congratulations to you. But when you look at the number of cards graded in the paper set, not the Chrome set, there has been 5,717 graded cards. Only 633 cards have been 10s. So that tells me there's probably 2 things at play here: card stock, and the other one is probably the centering. I think that's probably the issue as well. Now, when we break it down to this Tom Brady card, 86% of all graded cards from the set are the Tom Brady cards. So his card has been graded almost 5,000 times. And remember, 5,717 graded cards overall. His card has been graded 4,900 times, and he has 461 10s. And so that's what you're talking about when we're talking about this set has zero appeal beyond Tom Brady. 86% of all graded cards are the Tom Brady. The second most is that Urlacher, and his card has only been graded 215 times. So it's like there's a huge drop off. And then the third guy is Chad Pennington, who we spoke about. And then the fourth guy is a guy that we haven't spoken about, but he was a guy who, had a nice career, had some flashes, Sean Alexander. And then there's Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis had a couple flashes as well. We even showed a guy named Mike Anderson, and he was a rookie in this set. And the reason we're showing him, there he is right there, he beat out Tom Brady as the rookie of the year. Well, yeah, of course he did, because Tom Brady didn't play. But just think about that. Mike Anderson's like probably sitting at home, like, yeah, I was a rookie the same year Tom Brady. I won the rookie of the year over him. Like, that's the one thing he has over Tom Brady. But
Right.
like, that's just, it just, again, shows to the, just the lack of star power in this whole set. But, I don't, again, maybe you can speak to it since you've seen these cards firsthand, ungraded. What is it about the card that, has given us so few tens?
Well, we've talked about that 85 top set, and this has a similar issue in that the bottom corners are black, so they show really easily.
Okay.
The top corners are also dark; they're gold. And the other thing you'll see on the borders of the cards, it's easy to tell if a card is off center. I mean, it's real easy to tell. So there's no hiding that from a grader. I mean, I think we've talked before about like the 91 Skybox basketball set is almost impossible, really. I mean, unless it's really badly off center, it's tough to really check the grading or the centering on that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, you kind of just talked about the top 5 most graded cards in this set. The number 6 card is the only veteran. It's the most graded veteran card. Peyton Manning with just 22 cards. So
yeah,
I wanted to show everybody this one too. This is the Danny Warfall Europe Prospects card, and it's just interesting to me, these Europe prospect cards. But Danny Warfall had played 3 years with the Saints. Well, he didn't play. He was on the team with the Saints for 3 years, and then had an opportunity to go over. And that was the whole point of that World League at that point, was to get those guys that were buried at the bottom of the depth chart and let them play some games. But, of course, it was pretty short-lived. And Warfall ended up coming back over. I think he played with the Bears for a season or two, and then that was it for him. But great quarterback in college. But, yeah, these cards just haven't been graded. But that would be my reason for probably the tougher grading. But, I will say we talked about, the Brady card being graded, 4,900 times and 420 tens or 460 tens. So that's about a 10% gem rate. On the Urlacher card, though, there's 223 cards that have been graded. 42 are tens. So a much higher gem rate there. I mean, you're looking at almost 20%. So,
and those probably went into top loaders right away.
Exactly. The Brady card was in common boxes. Exactly.
Yes. And there was that the back of the card had the black borders as well. So, the etching on the back could have something to do with it. One of the things I found interesting is the back of Brady's card is actually Bowman, Topps, whoever, did the research. They actually did a really good job of scouting. And it said, under skills, it said, scans the field well, plays best in big games, known for accuracy and touch, leads with poise and determination. So that was on the back of his rookie card.
Let me tell you what's on the back of Chad Pennington's card, and this is going to tell us why these guys had different careers. Chad Pennington likes bass fishing.
Did it really say that?
It really does say that on the back.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Pennington likes bass fishing, so that was.
Well, there you go. So kudos to the folks.
You'll have to read it sideways, but it's the last thing on there. Likes bass fishing.
There you go. He caught himself a delicious bass. But, I was pretty impressed when I read that. I'm like, wow, that's Tom Brady. And somebody had that scouting report from Topps and Bowman. And hopefully that person is still living and making a good living on scouting, because he really did live up to that, all those attributes. And so I think that's again, another interesting thing about this set is there wasn't a lot of flash to it. I do like the design. But again, I think the back of the card actually looks nicer than the front of the card, and that's some rare. I think they spent a lot of time on the back of the cards, and so think that's something we've talked about on this podcast as well. Is the back of the card sometimes could impact the whole value of the card, and I think this was one of those that did. But really like the ability to flip over a card and enjoy the artwork as much as the front.
Yeah, that's one thing that, since getting back into the hobby has driven me nuts about Panini is, even if they're high-end product, the back of it is just almost useless. So, that would be one thing that one of those things that hopefully when Fanatics takes over can fix that, because, Topps, I think, still does a really good job with the backs of their cards, but Panini is just, the back is awful in my opinion. So
yeah, it is. And that's the unfortunate thing, because like you and I've talked about, the back of the cards, it's still part of the card,
right?
Let's either give us something that, and we enjoy flipping over and seeing, or what, give it a little bit of effort. That would be appreciative from our end.
For sure. We've been talking Tom Brady, and I think everybody kind of feels like he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, not GOAT as in he's the one who made the mistake that cost people something. But let me ask you this question. Who's in your top 5 quarterbacks of all time?
Well, Brady obviously is near the top, so let's take him off the list. I think here's if I were to put up the top 5, you have to get pretty. All right, I'm going to say this. Here's the basic answer. All right, Joe Montana, John Elway, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning. Those guys to me are not only best at what they did. They were all winners, now with the exception of Dan Marino. I know he didn't win one. Couple guys I would put knocking on that door that maybe some people wouldn't. Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly had a great career. I don't know if he's top 5, but when we're talking about talent, and let's take just the talent, I would say Tom Brady, Joe Montana, John Elway. This is where, do you go Peyton Manning? Do you go Dan Marino? And again, I'm in the 80s. I didn't see enough Johnny Unitas, Bart Starr, Fran Tarkenton. It was a different era. So I think that, and you start looking at some of the guys that have arm talent now. Where's Patrick Mahomes? Where's Aaron Rodgers going to fit into this? But if you were to put a gun to my head today and say, give me your top 5, it'd be Brady, Montana, Elway, Manning, and Marino.
Yeah, I'm pretty close with that. I'm almost identical to what you have. And again, I didn't see Johnny Unitas play. I didn't see some of these guys. I did look today on NFL.com. They had an article on their, top 25 quarterbacks, and they had Otto Graham and Sammy Baugh right up there,
right,
in their top 10. They had Bart Starr, I think, was 13th. Otto Graham played for the Browns for 10 years and went to 10 championship games in 10 years. And that's pretty tough to beat. But again, different era, not as many teams to play. But yeah, I'm with you. They had Elway number 9. I have him in my top 5, but maybe I'm.
That's interesting. Wow. That's interesting. I'd love to hear the top. But when we talk about those guys, look, John Elway won 2 championships, was really, really good his entire career. But then there are guys like Terry Bradshaw that, he won a lot of Super Bowls. But everybody's like, but he has a defense. More, they start making these caveats. Jim Kelly made it to 4 Super Bowls, didn't win any. Fran Tarkenton, 4 Super, didn't win any. But where do those guys fit? You have to win the big game. Aaron Rodgers, he's a great example. He won 1. Brett Favre, he won 1. But, they're not looked at as that top 5. And then there's Dan Marino. He didn't win any. But, I think what these guys did, just over the longevity of their career, I think makes them, the GOATs, if you will, of the quarterback position. But I think we are in the midst. We could be seeing, some guys who have the potential to have that longevity. I really feel like Patrick Mahomes, if Kansas City can figure things out, He's that young guy. Josh Allen. I think there's, Justin Herbert, Joe. I mean, we have guys, if they can go and do this for 15, 20 years, and that's what it's going to take. That's what some of these guys do it for. It's really hard to pin down a top 5, especially when you don't get into the era before 84. That's kind of where it's our cutoff for us. So, it's a great debate. So who did you say is in your top 5? Did you have anybody different?
Yeah. So, and there's the other one that you didn't bring up that they had in their top 6 was Drew Brees. They had right up there, and statistically, it's hard to argue that as well.
I don't think of him as an iconic top 5 quarterback, but he absolutely is. Like, he's a guy who doesn't come up to the top of the mind, right? And I would say he would probably bump Dan Marino after you bring him up, but he doesn't come to top of mind for me.
Yeah, I've got Brady, Montana. I got Peyton and Elway, 3A and 4, or 3A and 3 and 3A, and then I'm just gonna go. And again, I've never saw the guy play, but I have Unitas as 5th.
Yeah.
But here's some other things, and you talk. Like, Elway was the first quarterback to play in 5 Super Bowls. And I think the main thing with Elway, obviously, he lost all those Super Bowls, the first 4 he played in. But I think the drive, the drive and the drive too is just in the lore of the NFL. And I think those things, move him up. But, you'll also look at Montana. And Montana, obviously in the 80s was always looked at as the guy. And then you had Elway. But, I always say this, and I've really come to like Brady. So I don't want to say this as a Brady hater, even though I was for many years, and now I've come to love him. But Brady is so interesting to me. It played in the AFC East when it was never worse than it was and the guy played so many playoffs. Obviously, he's won more playoff games than anyone else. It's not even close.
Right.
But he played so many of them at home in the crap weather. I mean, that was a humongous advantage because he had basically 6 free wins every season in the division.
Yes.
So, and then Montana, I mean, if you put Montana on the Broncos in the 80s, like, do they ever go to the Super Bowl? Yeah. I mean, the guy obviously made some incredible plays, but there's probably never been a team as stacked for that long as the 49ers.
And that's the hardest part about making these debates and making these lists, right? Is you could interchange it. Like, again, Dan Marino, if he were on the 49ers, how many Super Bowls would he have? And you vice versa with Montana. It's just sometimes you get caught in a good situation. And, at the same time, I think this is what makes Brady unique. And I think this is what makes Elway unique. And you could almost argue John Elway, to me, is number 2. And after you mentioned Brees, I feel really dumb for not thinking of him. But I look at the quarterbacks that really go that extra to, like, make sure that their teams win. And I think those type of guys really exemplify that. They will do whatever it takes. And I'm not saying guys aren't, but, like, I look at someone like Aaron Rodgers, for instance. Aaron Rodgers, if a guy doesn't do what he wants, it's on that guy. And you see it. And you start seeing quarterbacks that are like, and it's like, and I'm sure Elway did it. I know Peyton Manning did it, but, like, they did it, and then they were like, we're going to go get this. We're going to figure this out. And those were the winners. Those are the guys that get, that will do whatever it takes to get their team the victory, no matter if they were down to their last string wide receiver or whatever the case may be. And I think those are the traits that you look for when you look at, like, who are the iconic quarterbacks. Brett Favre, for instance. I know he threw a lot of interceptions, but, man, that guy would play on a broken leg if he could to win a game. The old gunslinger, yeah. And so, but when you look at, take the emotion out of it. That's the emotional part of it. When you take the stats, everything, I think the guys that we've named, and I am embarrassed that I didn't bring up Brees. I think if I were to look at that list and you give me Brees, I think he replaces Marino. Marino drops down to 6.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to do it on the spot.
Yeah.
So I'll give you credit for coming up with most of them on the spot. But you talk about quarterbacks, leading. One of my favorite, I'm a Peyton Manning guy, but one of my favorite Peyton clips is when he comes over to the sideline and Jeff Saturday's sitting there talking to the guys. He's like, "Quit changing the play, Peyton." And he goes, "Just effing block, Jeff."
Right. And that's the type of stuff that's what you want. That everybody respected Peyton Manning, and he could have said anything to anybody in any moment, and they were like, "Yeah, that's our guy." And I know he's going to battle all the way to the end. But I think one of the things when we talk about those quarterbacks, when we talk about the hobby, Tom Brady is still the most sought after card in the hobby of those guys. And I think, that's an interesting thing too, is Brady's in a class by himself, and we just named a bunch of iconic quarterbacks. And so that just shows, again, the uniqueness of this set when you can talk about a guy who, compared to all other quarterbacks, is truly the GOAT.
Yeah, for sure. We've been talking quarterback, and I think we're about ready to wrap up this set, but there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. And that is, if you go and look on eBay and you look at those solds, there are very few raw cards of this card left. I mean, I'm sure there's guys that are holding them, but as far as raw cards being sold, very, very few. Most of what you're seeing out there are graded cards, and that's pretty normal for a high-priced card. A lot of people are kind of scared to sell raw cards. They don't know what's going to happen, at least when it's in a slab. It's got a serial number. If there's a return, you're going to get your card back. But there are just very few raw cards out there. But one of the things that I've been doing, and I've kind of been talking to you about it, is I've been going back and buying, because we're talking about that era from 2000, really up to about 2015, when there wasn't a ton of cards printed like there are now. I've been going back and buying those Tom Brady cards raw. And we're talking like 5th and 6th year cards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can get these cards, a lot of them, if you're buying them in lots, for like $1 each. I mean, it's ridiculous. So it's something that I think if people are looking for something to invest in without spending tons and tons of money, start going back and looking at some of those kind of, not, the 1st and 2nd year cards are obviously worth a lot more, but you can get yourself 2006, 2007 Tom Brady's in lots, like incredibly inexpensive. And those cards, obviously, a lot of them, they are base, because that's what there was. There wasn't a ton of, it wasn't like we have 14 versions of the same card back then, but
right.
It's still the print counts were very low, and you can buy these cards extremely affordable. And at some point, if grading becomes affordable again, I think those are going to be really some kind of what I like to call white space where there hasn't been things done, and you can go in there and work in those spots and create some cash.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. And I keep, thinking of this era as kind of the dead era of cards. I don't know how many people really were collecting at this time, and I don't know how many people were keeping at this time. And especially guys like Tom Brady. But, we've gone off on a kind of a tangent with this set because, again, we didn't have much to talk about with it beyond that Brady set. But hopefully everybody found this insightful and the conversation interesting. I know finding the research on this, you and I talked about this when we were, prepping for the show, said there isn't really a lot of commentary on this set. So hopefully this, jogs people's memories and gets people thinking about this set in a little different way. But I'm ready to put it to bed if you are, Chris, and we can move on and do a show wrap here and talk about where we're at with PSA and the state of grading right now, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, so I just wanted to keep people involved and interested and up to date on where PSA is. So I do it through my personal submissions. PSA continues to work through its backlog here. I got grades back on an order that arrived at PSA April 7th of last year. So that was a Value Modern submission. That's cards from 2018 to modern or present. That's $15 per card. So you're looking at about a 13-month return here on those cards. So if you have cards sitting there, that's about where they're at for the Ultra Modern. And the Value Modern, which is that 1972 to 2017, that you're going to have to wait a little bit for. I have an order that arrived on that same day, April 7th, 2021. That order just got out of grading and is in assembly. So that'll be a couple more weeks before it gets back here. So if you have a value Ultra Modern, they're probably heading back here. And then if you have a Value Modern, you got to wait a little bit. And lastly, PSA continues to churn out the economy orders at $50 a pop. They're very happy to be able to charge you $50. An order I sent in on March 28th is now coming back to me this week. So they're getting these back in less than a month. And so if you're willing to spend the $50, if you have cards that you think have some value, they're going to turn them around in less than a month. So that's what's going on with PSA. One more thing, I will say this. I got an email from Beckett today. And Beckett is back in the grading game. This is what they said in their email, and I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't screw it up. As the hobby continues to thrive, we don't anticipate submissions to slow down. Instead, we expect ourselves to become more efficient. We hear you, and we're responding. Standard grading is officially open with improved average turnaround times of 4 to 5 months. Stay tuned for new submission information and specials as we continue to open up new tiers of service. So standard grading at Beckett is $50 if you want the subgrades, $30 if you don't want those subgrades. So Chris, let me ask you this. For $50, why the hell would anybody consider using Beckett right now?
I have no idea.
I don't either. Here's my only. I have one reason to use Beckett. That's to get those old Star Company basketball cards graded, because I believe they're the only ones that'll do that. Okay. And I have some of those that I got from the National, so I'm gonna pick the best ones and send those. But that's about it.
Yeah, even at 30, I would rather send it to SGC, and you're getting your cards back from SGC in a month. Instead of 4 to 5 months. So maybe it's just Beckett has to do that to get people to talk about them once again. You know, they've moved down to being the number 3 grading service now, and I think they probably just want to be in the news. But I think they probably also know that, you know, it's going to be trickling in pretty slow at that price. And that's probably okay, because I know they're still way behind. You talked about the PSA stuff. I have a Value Modern in there right now that I filled out the submission, I think, on February 28th. I shipped it in early March, and it was entered April 19th. And it has been in grading for about 3 months and still hasn't budged. So, but
and that was about a $15 per card or $12.
That was $12. Yeah, $12.
Yeah,
so,
they'd rather cash my $50 orders first per card than your $12 card. We've talked about that on here too. And it shows, man. They're turning around those $50 ones a lot quicker.
Yeah, less than a month you're getting your cards back, which is crazy. You know, it's not a big deal at this point. I think that honestly, it seems to me like the prices have kind of stabilized on cards. I think they went down quite a bit, and now they're kind of stabilized. I don't think another month's really going to make that much of a difference, especially with the cards that are there that are mine. So I'm not too concerned about it at this point. And really at the price, you know, I would love to be able to send cards for $12 a piece right now. I was actually thinking about that today. I had some road time. I was thinking about a few years ago how much excitement there was around the quarterly specials.
Oh,
and,
yes.
You know, the first few nights, you know, right before the quarter would end, you'd be like, what is going to be in the quarterly specials? And you and I would talk to each other,
speculate
what it was going to be. And, you know, it would come out, and then we were just blowing through our collections looking for cards that would fit the quarterly special. How exciting was that? And how exciting would it be for that to come back? to be able to grade cards for $8.88, and kind of, it was like every time one of those specials came out, you got to look at your collection through different eyes because you're trying to find something that would fit into that quarterly special. So I miss those.
I absolutely, bringing that up brings back memories of us speculating and then scrambling to try and get our orders in the fastest so we can get them back the fastest. And I think PSA has something that they can do again. I think they have the data that they know which cards, and I think capping the number of cards is going to be something that we're going to see going forward. But I think you and I sent a boatload of 1980s baseball for $8.88. That was one of the best promotions. We sent just a ton of cards, and then it was the Jordan era, right? Like those are the two, the Jordan years. I think that was $9 per card. Yep. Yeah, so like that was so much fun. That was awesome. There was a
Griffey one too.
There was a Griffey and Trout. Yep,
card,
it was center fielders, him and Trout. Any cards that you could send. So yeah, I would love to see them get back to that. I think they will. I really do. The way that things are going, I just don't know yet how they're going to do it. But I think they're continuing to test things out, especially with this kind of lotto system for allocation of submissions. Now they're giving out 20, so they're expanding it, up to 20, I should say. And so I think they're testing right now to see where they could go. But yeah, if we can get those quarterly specials back, that would be just awesome. And I think that's where it's going to go.
If you see, whenever PSA posts something on Facebook, of course, you have hundreds of people coming out of the woodwork complaining, finish the backlog, get my backlog done. Well, here's the thing, PSA shut down last year in April. Yes. And right now in that value modern, which is really one of the classifications that they're the most behind, they're 88% done with March. Yes. Now, again, we're not talking about when the submission came in. We're talking about when the orders were entered. So they probably have quite a few orders entered in April, which is when mine is in there. And I would guess there's quite a few orders entered in May. I can't imagine there's that many orders entered in June. At that point, I think they would have kind of finished off those orders that would have come in March. So I'm guessing by the middle of the summer, the backlog is going to be gone. And then at that point, I think it's kind of like time to go.
That's a great point. Yeah. And I think and we've talked about it on the show. They're upping the amount of people that work there. They have the workforce, they have the space to take on more, and they're going to. And I think, it's really going to be interesting to watch, because I think what ended up happening is so many people were getting cards graded to try and get it flipped. It really, really changed the hobby. And we've had some comments from our people on our YouTube channel. Is it the junk slab era? Are too many cards getting slabbed? Is it is that going to be an issue? And maybe PSA is aware of that and doesn't want that to happen, and they don't want everything to become over slabbed, if you will. So I think there's a lot of things that are happening that are interesting, but I also do know PSA wants to make money. Yeah, they are a business.
We talked about in the last show, they did almost 1 million cards in March.
Right.
When this backlog is done, they're not going to be taking 1 million cards in every month at $50 a pop. There's no way, because if they do, I want to invest in that company. But
yes,
there's no way they're going to be bringing in 1 million cards a month at $50 a pop. No. They're going to have to keep those people working. So I don't think it's crazy to think that PSA is going to be doing cards right down there at that $25 mark where SGC is come middle of the summer. Because I think at that point, that backlog is going to be just about exhausted. They've got all this space now. They're cleaning out their warehouses because these cards are leaving. They've got space. They've got the workforce. And there's no way that they can be bringing in 1 million cards a month at $50 a pop.
And they keep extending our collectors. What is it called that we paid for? The collectors club membership. They keep extending that. So for many of us who got into the hobby and we paid to become part of that membership, they keep extending the deadline for it to expire. And so my guess is most of us have the same expiration date. We're all going to expire, and it's all going to be, they're going to figure out who's going to re-up, who's in this for the long haul, and who was in it for the short game. Yeah. And so I think that's going to be telling too. And right now, I think it's about 100 to 120 days till mine expires. So that's about 2 to 3 months, which exactly lines up with what you're talking about. And so if people start letting their Collectors Club membership, lapse, then maybe those quarterly specials come back for the people who stuck around. And then maybe they get more people to come back. A lot of things that are happening. If you and I are talking about it and speculating, that means PSA has already had these conversations.
Yeah. Something's going to happen. I can tell you one thing. For $50 a submission, I will not be re-upping my membership. I know that you're still sending cards in, but I just don't have enough cards that would be valuable enough to be sending in for $50 a piece.
And I would probably reconsider re-upping as well and use one of my local hobby shops to send cards that I have, because I can get that submission for $50 through them.
Right. So.
And that's what I think a lot of people are going to do, unless, again, they do a quarterly special or drop their prices, which we are speculating that will happen.
Midsummer. So, write it down right now. Midsummer, $25 PSA submissions. And they may still do kind of a lottery thing where people can't send in 500 cards. Maybe they'll say you can send in up to 50 a month at $20 a piece.
Yeah, they'll cap it. Something will happen where they cap it and do that. But hey, this was a fun show. We didn't really dissect the set as much as we did in the past, but that's okay. We did have a lot of good conversations about 2000 and the 2000 Bowman football set, and of course the Tom Brady card. We even got to talk a little bit about Chad Pennington, which I don't think many people in the hobby have talked about him since 2000. So
now everyone knows he likes to bass fish.
He does like to bass fish. So kudos to Bowman and Topps for digging up that nugget on Chad Pennington. Hey, and we do want to say, if you're watching on YouTube, go to the Apple Podcasts and download us on the podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on the podcast, go to our YouTube channel. We got a lot of great videos on there. Not just this podcast, or not just this video cast podcast. We also rip, packs, we rip boxes, we do reveals. We have a lot of fun on there, and we have our kids on there ripping cards. So come join us on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, come join us on the podcast. We'd love to have you anywhere and everywhere, and we always love to hear you in the comment section.
Yeah, you just recently opened some 1983 Fleer baseball, and a little birdie told me you got some more vintage packs on the way. I'm guessing, because I know who you bought it from, you're going to be getting that box tomorrow.
I hope so. Yeah. My guy, your guy, Freddie Steele. I got a bunch of his auction items, and maybe I'll show him off on our next show. What the treasure looks like that arrives at my door, hopefully tomorrow. And maybe we'll leave it up to the viewers. Should I rip it or should I keep it? That's going to be the big debate in my house.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming your way, and you should just do a video do an unboxing of just some of the cool stuff you got.
So, that's a good idea. We'll do it and we'll put it on the YouTube page.
All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next.